Hi, what's up, everyone? I'm Peter Kim.
And this is Unji Kim.
And welcome back to Two Kims.
One pod.
That's right. And today we have a very special Severance episode. We're going to be talking about our favorite show today. So if you haven't watched Severance yet, or if you're not caught up, you might want to stop this right now. Spoiler.
For sure. Or
we are going to spoil this.
Yes. Or if you're like me, you don't think things like this can be spoiled. And, you know, it's not a big deal that you know what happens. Because it's, yeah. But Peter doesn't agree.
Go ahead and listen. I don't understand that, but go for it. Because when I am watching something, I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on Instagram. Like, I don't want things spoiled because I want the experience to be. I want to be able to bring my full self to it.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I want to be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I want whatever the maker of the thing is intending to have its effect on me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So that's why I don't want it spoiled.
And I don't care.
I understand that.
And I don't care. I don't.
Okay, so if you're like Unji and don't care, then
I mean, like, it's because the thing is,
tune in.
I don't feel this need to be a pristine tableau rasa upon which this thing needs to be projected onto. I don't mind having a certain amount of bias and expecting things. I also hate surprises. So
okay, that makes sense why you want spoiled.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
I consistently pause movies and will look up the ending.
Okay.
Before I move forward.
Why?
Because I don't want surprises.
Well, okay. So if you're like Unji and you don't,
or a freak, you
don't like surprises, then listen in because there will be no surprises after this. So I'm currently, and the whole world is on the penultimate episode of the second season. So it is pretty much the end of the second season. This Friday will be the last day.
It's supposed to be
the last episode.
It's supposed to be a 70-minute, right? They released how long?
Yes, it's going to be an extended episode. They got a lot to cover. They've, a lot like Lost.
Yes.
They have opened up a lot.
Yeah.
And closed very little.
Right.
So, it's
because
it gets frustrating sometimes.
Because any door they close, they open up another door. Sometimes two doors.
And then a window.
And actually, they're French doors.
And then the garage is open.
So whatever resolution or satisfaction you feel from that resolution is immediately followed by more
something else.
Right.
So it's just great mystery writing, and that's why we're all sitting at the.
It's very much like Lost. That comparison has been brought up quite a bit.
The writers actually say that they are big fans of Lost. They have publicly said that they are. So there's a lot of similarities in how they bloom the onion, if you will.
Is this a series finale?
No. I think I don't know how many seasons are left, but I can't imagine this story going for longer than 3 because they've really ratcheted up this season.
Yes.
So I think it's going to be a 3 seasons, but it's funnily enough, it's produced by a company called Fifth Season Productions.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. Are they targeting 5? I don't know. But
okay.
The good news is, unlike Lost, Ben Stiller has publicly said that they know how it ends, and they are just having fun getting there, which is the most beautiful way to write.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's just what a dream. Okay, so let's get through it. I'm caught up, and I've been on the talks, and I've been TikToking a lot of Severance. I told Unji this the other day. Eric was like, "Hey, you're going too deep, and you're YouTubing so much. I think we should go to sleep." And I was like, "You're right." And I turned it off and I went to bed and I secretly pulled up my phone and went to ChatGPT and asked it to act like a Severance TV show conspiracy theorist.
Oh,
and
my
started
God.
chatting with it.
You were talking to a robot about your favorite show.
About my favorite show about making robots. Now, that's one of the theories, right? So let's go back, okay? So season 1, they introduced Mark and they have introduced Lumen, this Lu Ming, and
brother
antagonist and corporate overlord. And really the larger like theme and statement is like how much work or corporations take over your soul.
Dominates,
and how much we are willing to.
Yes, and dominates our lives, and how much we're willing to forfeit to this entity in order to one, survive. And when you asked me like what, like 3 words for like to describe the show, and the first thing that came to mind was like how provocative it is, given. And you have to understand, the show is the most muted, quiet show. Like, it's, especially the first season, it's almost like the grayscale on it, and I think we just talked about it, but there's something Soviet about it. There's certainly behind the Iron Curtain sort of vibe where everyone goes to the same store to buy the same clothes, and there are only 4 styles. And there's a part of it that evokes like company towns, like Ford and that era of like Hershey and everything like that. But also that like the fact that this sort of initially starts as a lampooning of like workplace, but then ultimately becomes this other thing unto itself. Like I don't know what I'm trying to like. It's a what did you call it? A box inside of the turducken.
Yeah, like a nesting doll.
Yes.
Like it's continuously giving. That's what you said was provocative.
Yes.
It's provoking conversation and thoughts and ideas. What's the second word that comes to mind?
I would say that the second word would be wrapped. Like RAPT.
You are wrapped.
RAPT. And also WRAPPED. I'm wrapped up in what's happening, and I am wrapped whilst watching. Like, it's strange.
Why?
It's strange. I will say, as someone who doesn't necessarily engage with current culture all that often, what's been strange is that something so quiet and something so drab is compelling enough to put down the phone. Right? Like, it's in such stark contrast to how quickly most things in media currently go and clip at. Like, if you watch any other show, there's very rarely a shot or a steady shot of anyone or with
a composition
or like anything that doesn't cut away to something else within a minute. And this is not like that.
No, it's full character study.
Absolutely. And also the cinematography of it is cinematic. Right, absolutely. It feels like a movie. It Coen Brothers.
It's Apple scale. Okay,
truly.
Bitch, they got money, and they're doing all of this in Utica, upstate New York. They shot in Newfoundland in season 2, so it's really they're finding the starkest places. And one of the guys, his name is Dan Erickson, clearly of Nordic background.
Yes,
like, he's really borrowing from this like stark Swedish. Almost like metal, where metal comes from because it's so fucking bright or dark all the time there.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like up north when it's snowy 900 days of the year. So like, not too unlike Chicago, but
but Chicago's got a lot of color in between. Like, there's something about this that is stark and so austere that it, the starkness, I think, enhances the inny-outy of it all, right? That everything is in stark contrast, and so
you only see them at night.
Yes,
or inside, which means you never see the light. Like, you as the audience never see light until season 2. At the end of season 2, episode 9, where Irving is sent off by Bert on the train, and it's one of the most beautiful scenes. And this is when I knew, I think, that Bert maybe was never severed.
Yes.
And Bert, there was this beautiful moment in episode 6 this season where he goes over to their house and they explain. By the way, the episode's title is called Attila. And the reason it's called Attila is because Bert and his husband Fields call each other
Hun.
Attila and then it became Han.
Yeah.
Right? So, but it also mapped over to the fact of how brutal Attila the Hun was in warfare. And this is reflecting what Bert was. He was this like
Goon.
driver or goon.
Enforcer type figure inside of the company.
Who clearly has a lot of blood on his hands. Although in episode 9, he does tell him, I never killed anyone.
Right.
He just drove people to their deaths. So he was like the ferryman, if you will.
Sure.
If you think of like Persephone and Hades, which is a lot of mapping what people are doing in what they're calling Gemma / Heli as like our Persephone that Mark is going to like
bring out
into the underworld to bring out so that there could be sun and spring again. So that's kind of what I think the promise of that is, because that's the first time we saw sunset or even sun in our show, because you never see the Audis out.
Right.
Like you only see them out at night when they're done with work.
Exactly.
During the day, they have to be innies. So, like, we as the audience have never seen sun in 2 seasons.
It's like
Talk
Vegas.
about drab and dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like living up there by the North Pole, right? So, Diane Erickson really, I think, captured this so beautifully in his writing, obviously, and with set deck and production design and all that, and cinematography specifically, to make these places so harsh and drab and brutal. To give us this like almost like depression, like inescapable prison of woe, one of the tempers.
Whoa,
you know?
Absolutely. So I think that ultimately, for those of you who are listening and haven't watched the show and for whatever reason are still listening, I mean, ultimately, ultimately, the show itself is such a searing indictment of capitalism. Right?
Absolutely.
And there is something happening inside of culture writ large where this sort of message, how the grinding gears of capitalism turn our flesh into such powder. There's been several, right? The Squid Game of it all, the Parasite, and now there's coming out of the Nordic cultures, right? Triangle Sadness, like that dude. Like it's the same. Yes. It's the same indictment of capitalism and how dehumanized it makes all of us. The fact that it's making that point, and it's making it in such a way where, like propaganda, it's filtering into our minds. Like, right? Like we all know this as a sort of larger idea. We get it sort of fed to us initially at the beginning of season 1 and all the stuff about corporations and all that. But even throughout, we're being fed it in different sort of ways that are less detectable because it's built into the story, right? Because even as we're discovering all this stuff about the actual like Lumen Corporation and the mystery of it all, it's still, there's something about the story foundationally, that is constantly beating us over the head with like the indictment of capitalism, right? Which I really think is a testament to his writing. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the way that they're doing that, and cleverly, and this is one of my theories of what Lumen really is, because they started in 1865 at the end of the Civil War.
Right.
That cannot be
coincidence.
There's a reason for that. So, and the fact that Keir Egan, who seems to be seeking everlasting life through like the revolving of his soul through his heirs.
It's described as some sort of ceremony. So the Egans are the founding family of Lumen. So
right. Yeah. And Keir Egan was the founder, and he is not just like the corporate founder, he is lifted into this godlike figure, like Messiah-like figure that has brought salvation upon the world.
It's the John Smith, it's the Scientology. There's and the thing about it that is like the parallel here is that stuff like that is uniquely sort of American. Mormonism
Right,
is
so-
of the New World, like
Yes.
Scientology, New World. It's
It's this cultiness that is tied to the capitalism that we haven't seen yet by any TV, any type of indictment. We haven't seen this like obvious yet vague tie of capitalistic dehumanization and Americanism,
right.
in that, like, almost like Christian Americanism,
Right, evangelical
of this, like,
yes. To be rich is to be glorious, right? It is their glory unto
and
God.
tying that together,
Prosperity Bible shit, yeah.
yes, but done so like deftly where you don't see the seams,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not like, it's so beautifully done that like you have to look for it, which is great, right? Because we are the people that want to look for it.
Absolutely.
But even the people who are not looking for it, they are, I'm assuming, hoping that they'll get it through osmosis, or something like that,
because
right?
of the way that the story falls, right? Like the fact that there are no, as you're saying this, I'm realizing when you're talking about the seams. So there is a type of dress that's caught on a bias, right? Where you are basically cutting with the weft of the fabric, so it does not require a seam on both sides. So you can just on one, you're tying it together on that side.
Interesting.
And so and when you see it, and if you know what I'm talking, anybody knows what I'm talking about, it flatters and flows on the body very naturally, right? Because it's going with the wave of the fabric and the way it falls on the body, and it's such as such, because there are parts of Keir's, like the virtues and the tenets that are good, right? Fundamentally, they are good. Even Rickon's book, there are parts of it where if you scroll through Instagram now, right, there are dudes selling exactly this type of self-help sort of basic sort of adages and pearls of wisdom that are supposed to really reach you in a low moment.
Yeah.
And
the hang in there's,
that's right. Like, and the answers within. And if you are seeking the lion, you must become the lion. Like, sort of like the false prophets that can emerge from this type of darkness. And when we're incentivizing and monetizing knowledge and information like this, that's absolutely, it's really, that part of it has been sort of insidious, and it makes you realize there's so much about millennial startup culture that was like this, right? When like the CEO and founders of people, the Elons, right? There was so much.
Well, yeah, that's what
Yes.
I'm really excited for, is that they are, even though this was written 2 years ago, the onslaught of oligarchy and like tech overlords specifically was obvious.
Yes.
With the taking of Washington Post by Bezos, and Elon doing whatever the fuck he's doing now. Like,
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
We're there. We're here. We're Keir. Get used to it. So Keir has created this thing. Now, my whole thing is, why 1865, and why this Milchick, I think you might have seen this already, the season 2 move by the people above, the board, recanonicalizing the art to make sure that he seems represented in that, right?
Yes.
Which is very American capitalism, like, oh yeah, inclusion, great, we'll do it, as long as you stop thinking on your own and working for us, and keep pressing those numbers, like, we'll do anything, let's go, let's include. And that is like the way Scientology, that's the way like all these cults work, is like, sure, great, let's do it, like, you're it too, like, you need a place, we got you.
Yeah, actually, Black people can become priests in the Mormon church now. Like, come on, what were we talking about? We've been
that was 1960s. Come on,
we've been evangelizing
79.
in Africa for years. It's fine. Let's wrap it up.
People too. Yeah. You just get a different plan. By the way, sidebar.
Yeah.
Have you watched Heretic? I'm sure you haven't.
No.
A24.
It's so it looks so
horror
scary.
film.
It looks so scary. I don't want to.
I get it. I understand where you're coming from. Here are the reasons why you should. It is. I will say it's not a perfect movie,
Okay.
but it is writer, directors, and produced by. So they did it all.
Okay.
So they had a singular vision
Right.
and a fucking singular thing to say.
Yeah.
And that excites me. That tickles my hole. Because anytime like other people are involved, we go back to the auteurship thing. This was like even funded by them. So like brava.
Brava. Okay.
They really told
Potato? Okay.
Tomate. They told a very interesting story that you would, I think, adhere to and like be interested in the thesis of the movie.
Sure.
And it's rated R, but it should be PG-13.
Okay.
It's not really scary. It's more like psycho thriller. Like
The suspense. That's what really
it's more suspense.
I hate that more.
Oh, okay. Then you won't.
Yeah.
But for those of you who enjoys, I love suspense and thrill. Like it is a man who challenges two Mormons that come to his door.
Right.
In a twisted, dark way, but intellectually, like he's making a lot of great points.
Right. But he's trying to create a physical argument for an ideological. Right, he's creating like a physical sort of pathway towards an ideological argument. Like, right, he's having them viscerally experience,
yes,
like the flaws in their logic.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a little more complicated than that. He's definitely like a bad person playing games.
Sure.
And he does not have good intentions.
Right.
But the thesis of the movie is very interesting, which is beware of organized religion. That's all it is. That's the whole thing of the movie.
Yeah.
That's why I liked it, because it's like, oh yeah, okay, great. And one of the actresses is from Yellow Jackets. Mm-hmm. She plays a young Juliette Lewis. She's incredible. I really think she's a very gifted actress. Anyway, going back to Severance, Keir in 1865 builds up this company / ethos that has now, I guess this is present day ish, like like 200-ish years, right? Had become this cult within the family and blah blah blah, and there's this weird like not incestual but like souls being transferred type of thing happening. The creepiest scene this year was when James Egan was watching his daughter eat the egg.
And he's like, I wish you'd take it raw.
Take it. Not eat it.
Take it.
Take it raw. And before that, he made this
yes
sound. And I believe that's because he can't eat.
Oh. And he's like,
you know what I mean?
Thirsting like, after it? Or I thought it was...
I don't think James Egan is like biologically James Egan.
Okay.
I think this has something to do with what's happening down in the second Severance floor.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because he was off from the beginning. He's like super like they did something with his makeup to make him not look like he's
human, yes,
or like he's real, right?
Yeah.
So that's obvious something's happening. And then I thought of 1865. Mm-hmm. What happened then? Civil War, slavery, the South or North or whatever, all had to now stop having free labor.
Right.
Slaves. So I think Keir created a new way to enslave humanity.
Oh.
So this is a new way to like have slavery without slavery.
Okay.
So I think that's what the 1865 is, and why Milchick was given this thing and this obvious like reflection of a black man having to choose to become metaphorically enslaved again.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like what that would do to someone and why therefore in episode 9 he decides to help Mark.
Yes.
And be like, okay, don't come in. So I think that was like Milchick's whole like arc.
His arc this season, I mean, I'm excited for it. Yeah. Like
beautiful. I think he's really going to come through for us in season 3.
Because presumably when we talk about the ultimate message of the show, you know, like those people are always out and yet are always in.
Yes, they're never outs, or
they have not been severed, or have they always been severed? You know, like
I think they have been severed, and the innie now lives as both. So the outie has been
eradicated.
Yes, because the outie does not serve Lumen.
Right. So
I think Mark S., our protagonist, is like Severance 101. And Milchick and what's her name?
Cobell,
who
created Severance.
And the little Asian girl, Miss Wong.
Yeah.
I think they are all severed.
Uh-huh.
And this is their innies completely taking over their entire existence. So the outie does not exist anymore.
So you think they already went through this entire process of like
I think that's
assimilating
part of the ceremony of elevating to their level. And I think this year Miss Wong is showing us what Miss Cobell went through.
Right.
This Wintertide
Yes.
fellowship. And we're going to see she's being shipped off to that like empathy camp, which is like the craziest thing to call something.
Yes.
But why would there be a need for an empathy camp if you're not creating people, slaves, or goats?
The goats, I do think, are something with this. Like there is a part of that that they are tied to.
It's happening down there.
Yeah, it's happening there for sure. Like this creation of a workforce that is. But yes. I wonder if the plan is that where Gemma comes in is that they're now able to take people who have died outside. Mm-hmm. And so now they're able to regenerate themselves as only ins.
And
like
I see that.
And so
I see that.
And so when you see the fact that when we talk about like trying to expand your workforce, right? Like this would be
so they have some kind of like fake body printing or something,
right? Or like
we're gonna find out like O&D prints bodies like Westworld.
No, I just think that like if someone dies outside, that then they could take them and make them a permanent innie. So people are gonna die regardless.
But what if they like the body is not like repairable?
Would it matter?
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like how are they doing? Is it like plastic? Like what are they? Is this like an Android situation? You know what I mean? Like
yeah, I don't know, because there's a part of it where like at least with Gemma and with James, like they look almost, it's like uncanny valley stuff where it's like this is what a robot thinks a human looks like.
Yeah, exactly. Like AI printed robot.
Yes.
Now I think what's happening with Gemma is that she didn't actually die.
Okay.
I think this was a cover up. I think Gemma was given the opportunity to have a baby. To fix her marriage with Mark or whatever. Yeah. And she signed up for like one of the very first severance procedures.
Okay.
And she had a baby, I think, but she got caught in there. You know what I mean? Like she can never leave now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think they trapped her and said, "Okay, she died. Grieve her." And then I think Cobell knew that this is what happened, and Cobell was like, "Fuck."
Yeah.
And then maybe guided Mark to be like, "Hey, go in there. she's Miss Casey.
Yes.
Maybe you will fuck up this severance thing because they stole this shit from me. So I need you to go in there and fuck this up. So I think what we really thought she was a villain, but I think she has been orchestrating this from the beginning.
Oh, absolutely. The candle, right? Like, and there's a part of her especially once you see
she wants the severance to break.
Yes, and
she knows the
weaknesses, right? So that's why, and it all seems to
like sense of smell or like sense of
things that would be strong, like actual memories, sensory memories, along with
like
love,
like down in the amygdala or something like that. Yeah.
So like that's where she's trying to put the pressure. I mean, and even the fact that she lives next door to Mark, all of it.
I think that's on purpose.
Yes.
Yeah, not like she was a freak or something.
No.
Like she's really trying to break their system because she is realizing they took this and ran. This was for like something different. This was to help people with pain.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like she developed this as like an ether. You know, originally Lumen was an ether company, which was, you know, basically huffing it to like stop your pain. But
they started using that during the Civil War.
Yes.
For amputations.
Bingo.
Okay.
That's what she was trying to develop, was a way to like
stop
subside pain and trauma in your brain. But I think Lumen took it and they were like, oh, there's a more insidious use for this. Enslavement. So I think that's what is happening. Now, where do the goats come in? Here's my theory with the goats.
Okay.
Because goats are just being bred, right? I think what they're doing is getting people to sign up for severance and trying to erase them so much that they could transfer a goat's consciousness onto a person.
And then wait, to what end then?
So that the people walking around are goats instead of people with memories or feelings or attachments or wants or needs or like higher functioning or whatever.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So that they have more of a animalistic workforce that's dumbed down than like because I think what they're realizing is that there's a human soul inside. So like it keeps fucking up the severance, I think. So I think the goat is like the final way to like, you know what I mean? Like transfer the consciousness, like make this a goat person.
So I have read this like in ties to a theory I've seen on TikTok where they are basically saying that the project that they're working on, where they're feeling the numbers be bad or like good, like those are actually the feelings and memories.
Tempers.
Yes, the feelings and memories of people that they're getting rid of.
Right. So that they could implant a goat.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think they're trying to get rid of everything and then put a goat that you can just train to do stuff.
So like in order to more completely sort of like take away their pain and eradicate and like create a true severance, because as it stands, there is still this tie and call, like
these tempers that you have to tame.
And even Irving's, and you'll see it like where they're these outie personalities do seem to influence Innie's personality.
Yeah, he's like fucking painting that dark hallway like it's something seeping through, right? So they're really trying to like eradicate the self.
Any sort of ties towards it. And so basically all those numbers are basically that like that elicits that feeling they're trying to get rid of. So but when they say they get rid of it and you're saying that there is a soul, like I think to your point, that they're trying to put a goat. I don't know if they're trying to switch.
Or like switch.
I don't know if they're switching. I do think they're trying to sever it. That's what's happening. But I think they have to put those memories somewhere.
And it goes into the
goat.
goats?
And they
so the goats are just running around.
And they're sacrificing the goats.
The goats.
Because there are sacrificial goats, right? Like just in terms of the religious.
So you can't kill the person, but you could kill their soul. Wow, Insidious.
And-
I like that theory.
because they're putting
And
in.
I think that matches up with back in season 1. I
Mhm.
think this is one of the first scenes where he comes into the house and they're all like gathered to read Rickon's book.
Yes.
And she goes, "Oh, you have to be with Rebecca,"
Yes.
which is such a crazy name.
Yes.
You have to read with Rebecca. Sorry, she smells weird. And
Yes.
she keeps making chewing noises.
She's
but
a goat.
Not chewing.
She's a goat.
She's a goat.
Right.
And they're all goats.
Yes.
As is Rickon.
Yes.
I think Rickon's a goat too.
I don't think. You think Rickon's a goat?
Yes. Because you know why? This season they showed in the flashback episode where they were on a double date and he showed a picture like we went mountain climbing and he was scaling the mountain like a goat.
Yes. Yes.
It was, you know what I mean? And the fact that he's so dumb, you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, it kind of makes sense that like this is a goat's brain in here. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think they're all goats.
Okay.
And Devin,
Yes. Is a herder?
I don't-
Shepherd?
yes. I think Devin knows exactly what's happening.
Really?
And yes. And she knows she's married to a goat. And these are all her friends and whatever are all goat people. And Lumen is putting them out there to see if they could blend as real people.
Wow.
So yes. So I think these are all the town, Rickon and all those people
Right.
are severed people, completely severed people, transferred goats that they release back out into the wild.
So it's just this town. I'm not of the camp that thinks that Devin is evil. I do think that Devin knows more than she's letting on. I
don't know if she's evil, but she's definitely, yeah.
I think she knows more than she's letting on. Absolutely. I don't know that Rickon is a goat per se, but I do think that he is. I think he's.
You think he's a Egan?
I just think that he's a part of like this cautionary tale of being so buying in so hard to some sort of ethos or ideology outside of yourself, and it being such strict adherence. I do think that it's twofold. That I think Lumen has like an outside like this sort of thing, like where they're proselytizing and people unwittingly are getting into it. 1, 2, I think that that's how Rickon got in. I do Rick N, right? Rick N. Like that's one of the theories that like that's how he.
Oh, his actual name is Rick N.
Yeah.
Like Rick Niederlander or something.
Yeah, but like all the
interesting.
innies are Mark S, Helly E.
I thought it was Rickon because it's like the Egans all have weird names.
They do.
And there's I think he was the idiot brother to Helly.
Yes.
And what James did to him was turn him into a goat and was like, get the fuck out there. You know what I mean?
Prove your worth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
and Helly is now like the person to take over James' soul.
Right. I don't know if Devin is necessarily like that, because a part of me thinks that she knows more than she's letting on, but also that there's a part of it where she is playing the game, and then I think is unwittingly getting played. Like I think that there's like that's the reason why she seems evil, because she's definitely in it. Like when her and Miss Corbell like are going to like like why would she call Miss Corbell?
Because she knows that she is his manager.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like it's all of it is like it's.
I think
more.
she and Cobell. Well, for sure, because in the episode 9, Cobell takes her to the birthing camps,
Right.
And she goes, "This is one of James's."
And
then they do the back and forth,
Yes.
the coded language, the Twilight Zone episode throwback, and then they go in, right? And then as they go in, he gets severed. And she's like, calm down.
Yes.
He's like, whoa. And it's any mark
Yes.
that's not reintegrated. That something happened and he became any mark again.
Yes.
And when she goes, hey, so what did you say to me? What's the last thing you say to me? He said, she's alive.
Yeah.
She looks at Cobell like saying like, see, it works, or like, see, it's him, or something like that. Like, you can trust him, or something like that, where like she's in cahoots somehow.
But
you know, like
absolutely.
I think she and Cobell go back more.
This is what I mean. And we've just said that Miss Cobell is like trying to break it.
Yeah.
And break down somehow Lumen. So that's what I mean. Where it's like, I think she is definitely knows more, is playing the game, and ultimately actually unwittingly being played by Rickon, who is seemingly an idiot.
Oh, I see.
Who's seemingly an idiot, but because of his ties, perhaps to the larger corporation, is now being played. You know?
Interesting. I guess I'm thinking of it the other way.
Yeah.
Like, she's on top of that.
Yes. And I don't think that
because
she is.
like I think she and Miss Cobell have been planning.
Yes.
Because Miss Cobell has known about them stealing her shit for decades.
Yes.
So I think she's always been pissed off about this, and especially the way Helly treats her. Like, we don't need you. We're not afraid of anyone. And then when that driver came up, she was like, all right, psych. And then she left. So she, I think, knows like the pressure points of the Severance system. And now she's gathering the crew to go in there. So it's like going to be like a heist like situation. So I think episode 10 is going to be her getting the crew together, enacting the plan. And we're going to see it work to a certain extent, kind of like season 1 Ender, where like the overtime contingency happened and we saw it worked, and everybody saw their outies lives. I think what's going to happen is we're going to get down there, we're going to save Gemma, we're going to figure out what the like Cold Harbor situation was, and then we're going to be left with that classic twist where I think Mark is going to have to choose Helly or Gemma. And I think what Mark probably chooses is to go down further into hell.
As opposed to choose.
Yes. And we're going to see now how deep it goes in season 3. That's my theory.
That he chooses
him, like, to sacrifice himself. Like, if this is like mapped over to Greek tragedy or a Greek story, like that feels epic to me, as opposed to like, choose your Persephone and then him choosing the wrong one or something like that. I think like him going deeper into like what they're calling Dante's Inferno. Yeah. Like, we think we're at the 9th circle of hell, but I think we're only at the 1st or something. You know what I mean? Like, I think it goes down more.
And then there's,
because we're going to see how the goat integration is happening. Because that bitch in season 1, that's a goat.
Yes.
The chewing.
Yeah.
Weird smell.
Yeah. But all of them weren't, because she could smell and she notes how weird she smells.
Oh, so maybe, yeah, you're right. Maybe they're not all goats, but this one bitch is sus.
Rebecca, right. And then she even says, like, oh, I'm going to have to change my name again. So.
Yeah, you're right.
So, like, the Rickon, there's something else happening where I think there's another type of cult that's being... It's on the outside that's doing this goat thing, and they're creating it with this other cult.
That's not connected to Lumen?
It is, but they're not externally the way that, for all intents and purposes, like it's not supposed to appear like it is.
Interesting.
And that's how you ultimately spread your word, right? Like, it's because people, if everything is Coca-Cola, people are going to be like, whatever. But if it's Coca-Cola and it's Tropicana, if it's Coca-Cola and it's other brands, but it's ultimately all Coca-Cola. You know, like, I think there's a benefit to that. And when they go to Rickon to, like, for him to redo the book, you know what I mean? Like, this is when we start seeing it.
Now, do you think the Egans are sharing this revolving technology with others?
No.
Or is it just for them?
I think that what's happening...
It's like, why are people signing up for this cult, right? There must be like some kind of like, I don't know, like
freedom from
mothership
pain?
Situation.
No, freedom from pain and from having to think is sort of what religion is, right? But then
but what would make you become a zealot for it?
Because if you can
like
see that
you
it
must
works,
be promising.
but
But once your pain's gone, like what you just have to get into more pain and get it deleted. Like there's got to be something more.
you think there's
like
a larger
immortality-
process. There's a larger
Right,
promise.
because why give us this premise of immortality even? Like it could just be run by a CEO and still be nefarious. Like what's the point of this revolving? Why does that have anything to do? What does that have to do with the severed force? Like it must be this kind of like you're able to transfer. Right?
I mean, I think that if we were going to layer on like the capitalism and the religion, all that stuff onto it, I think that, all religion ultimately promises everlasting life, right?
There you go.
But the twist on it is that they're actually able to be relieved of actual pain. Like in the
so
now.
they're in you're already in paradise.
Yes, and like the pliancy of it all. Like if you're seeing it work, right? You are being relieved of pain. You are all these things are happening for you.
But you will still die.
Exactly. So like in the everlasting being, like you are part of this other this thing, like what have you. Because ultimately, the revolving and the continuation, I think it has to be within the Egans because one, the company being handed down via bloodline, like royalty, right? This is tantamount and like part of every sort of bloody, like this is how dynasties are made, right? Forged through blood in this way, and like by fighting
but
off.
the heirs this time are just vessels for the original.
Absolutely.
That's the twist.
Yeah.
Like, it's not bloodline. It's literal. It's the guy.
Yep.
So they're having kids
In order to,
just to set up a body for Kier to take over.
but a plus. It's a plus. Like
What do you
that
mean?
person is still, I think, there. It's just going to be like enhanced with like, you know what I mean? I don't think it supplants.
Oh, I think it's supplanting. Because why is James acting so weird if he's still there? You know what I mean? Like, this feels like why Kier's like, I wish you would take him raw. Because Kier wanted to take a raw.
Yeah,
like,
his
that
favorite.
was his
Yes.
favorite.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, that's Kier. I think that's what they're telling us is like, that's not James. It's James' body, but that's motherfucking Kier. But James' body is getting old. Right? So that's why I don't think this mannequin thing is... I don't know, because why wouldn't they just make a mannequin and then put James in it? Like, why does it have to be your great grandson or whatever?
Right.
Maybe it's just like that's the satire of like, look at these incestuous fucks thinking that they're worth, their bloodline's worth more or something like that.
I mean, this is the problem with the severance of like where it's like opens up one and then you close one and there's so many more. It's like because there's parts of it where like the actual mechanics and the rules of this natural world are so fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? And it's like
it's not really reality. It's like
absolutely not. It's adjacent.
Yeah.
It's reality adjacent because even the fact that there are so many knobs and analog items, and nothing is really digitized, but you go out into the world, and they're basically
and they have cell phones,
and they're in Pittsburgh, like like it's supposed to, like it's the rules are so arbitrary, so like I think that sometimes when we're that's why I try to like play more into like larger abstractions versus. Because there's what are the fucking rules? Like, all of a sudden we're in we're at the South Pole. Like, what the fuck? So, I do think that the Persephone and the Greek like layering does seem to make sense, especially with the hell and the literal up and down to
and
descent.
why it's winter.
Yes.
And when Persephone's in hell, it's winter, and when she's back and it's spring. And
I mean, and an allusion to
Persephone,
Persephone, like which is. I was Persephone for Halloween for many years, and it was like literally the most pretentious Halloween costume. So, like, the fact that this illusion is operating.
How are we supposed to know you were Persephone?
Because it was supposed to be like, people were like, "What are you?" And I was supposed to be like Persephone's footprint. Like, I was just like
Meaning
all.
that you had like flowers.
I was
on
all
you?
flowers. I was just all flowers.
That's so annoying.
That's so annoying. Persephone's Footprint is a lesbian rock band that you should start. That's the most lesbian thing about you. Oh my God. Anyway, I hate you so much. How many years in a row did you do that? You did that just so that you could explain the costume? That is no wonder you love Severance.
That's why I was just like.
So you do think it's gonna end with spring peeking, like the first flower peeking out of this? Like, I think that's gonna be the visual of like a one flower just going bing.
And I think
snow.
it's gonna be Milchek who picks it up.
Picks it. Oh.
Because I do think that there's a more tragic end for Mark S. Because he's not better.
No,
he's not better. He's like the learning curve of everything. It just he's not there. Like, he's discovering the world. He's not discovering anything within himself
about himself.
Yeah. Whereas Milchek, I think, absolutely is. When he sheds that tear on the phone call, right? Like,
I know.
It's when he's like the life outside, and then he has the chutzpah to stand up to Mr. Drummond, like
when he says
fecal.
What does it say?
Fecal
eat feculence?
Yeah.
No, partake in feculence. I don't know, but it's them basically say like eat shit to this fucking Drummond who has the worst haircut in the world. We gotta wrap this up in just a second, but I just want to mention that speaking of Milchek, I absolutely loved the subversion of making the white CEO or C-level character demand that his black middle management use smaller
words,
monosyllabic words. He was like, you doing too much.
Stop being Persephone's Footprint.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was such a beautiful move, because rarely, if ever, is that the commentary from that power dynamic. It's always the other way around. It's like, oh, look at you.
Right.
Using big words. Oh, you're so eloquent. Wow,
Right.
For a black man, you really know how to speak white. You know what I mean?
Sure,
so like
sure.
the fact that Milchek is being admonished
Right.
for his vocabulary. I just thought that was so juicy.
I think that the comment there is twofold. It's absolutely, as you describe, the subversion of that trope. I also think it's supposed to demonstrate how competence and intelligence is not rewarded. Right? It is not actually valuable. Like, compliance is more important than competence.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Like, that is absolutely. Like like in terms of having a religious or a corporate like body of people that you need to control. That's absolutely, you don't want thinkers.
You know what? Let's do this in two parts. We're gonna do this as a two-parter.
Yeah.
This is the end of part 1. We're gonna get back to you in part 2 because we have much more to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get some water.
Okay.
I'll be right back.